This is a global YJL YOS-550 instrument table. Also, it's a S4OPTIK Atlantis table, and it can be configured to be either in the center or on the side. It has a cover plate so that it will cover up whichever hole you don't use. If you want it to be a center, then you would attach it here. If you wanted to attach it to the side, then you would cover up this hole. When you turn it over, there will be a plate. There will be a couple screws holding it on, Phillips screws. Take those off, and then you have access to your plug. Now you're going to want to arrange your table mounting on the base so that the switch is in the front with the operator, and you want to also be aware that the plug on the base, if you want that in the back, then you're going to have to keep that in mind too when you configure the pedestal. If you want to dry fit it to see how the plate is going to be arranged, go ahead and set it up with the plug in the back, and just set it up on there to see how that plate is going to be configured. It's going to need to cover that hole. So we'll take it off, put our plate on, through the cable, through the holes, rest on top of these are going to stay in there, and then these are going to be the hole that you're actually going to mount the base to the pedestal. So when that's all arranged, pick our base up, fit the cables through the hole, and fit it right on top of the plate and the plugs. We can plug our plugs in, and then we can install our 4 Allen screws that are included with the table. Either 6mm bolts. They can't be too long because there's a plate under there, and so the provided screws are just the right length. The 4 Allens they already have in there are going to keep everything nice and straight and firm. These are just to lock the base onto the pedestal. And then we'll tighten these up. 5mm Allen. Got them all tight. We can put our cover plate back on. We'll replace the 2 screws they had, and then there should be 4 extra Phillips screws. All 6 screws in. Now we can turn it back over. You could do this right side up, but you'd be underneath trying to get all the screws, so it's better just go ahead and turn it upside down. And then once it's turned back over, the 4 holes that you'll be attaching to your table are right here. Now, depending on you, if you bought a table specifically for this instrument table, well, they should have the screws and everything should be pre-drilled and everything, but you might not have a new top that goes with this table, so you'll have to find either a plate that you can screw your bolts into, and the plate is attached to the tabletop, or just use wood screws. It's probably better not to use wood screws only because it could become weak. So it's best to get a plate. You're screwing screws into a metal plate, and that will keep it really sturdy. On this particular model, it's going to be a hog stripe tabletop, and we have a plate that can separate, that can be screwed down, and the 4 holes of your instrument table coincide with the 4 holes on the plate. This is solid, and with the Allen screws screwing into the plate, that's going to be really solid. Now, when you're putting your plate on, depending on how long your screws are, you're probably going to have to drill bigger holes in your top underneath it so that the screws can go into all the way without hitting the top. So after you align your plate, mark your holes where the bolts are going to be going through, and then drill a larger hole than the bolt, and a certain depth, depending on how long your bolts are and how thick your plate is, and they'll be able to be screwed all the way down without hitting the top. And you might want to, after you mount it, or make sure that everything is going to fit, put all the screws in and mount and put your plate on and see, is that going to work, so that when you do put the top on the table, it will fit the first time. So we've already mounted this plate, and now we're going to turn it upside down and screw it. You could do it you could put your screw bolts underneath it if you wanted to, work with it like that. But we're going to turn it upside down and actually screw our bolts right into the top. We've got our 4 mounting bolts in tight, and went ahead and plugged in the slit lamp. It's going to be underneath. You'll notice the way you arrange your plate on your top. Watch where you put the up-down control. See, it's even with the power supply, pretty even. And so you want to do everything like a dry fit to see how it's going to look. You don't want this sticking way past it if possible, or too far in. We've got all this hooked up. Now we're going to turn it back over and put our chin rest on and finish it up. Once you turn it right side up, hide your cables, tie them up wherever it takes to make it nice and neat. And don't forget to plug in your table with the cord that's provided. Now we're using a hog stripe table here because it's a hog stripe slit lamp, and one good thing about using a table that's made for that instrument is that the rail covers are already set. They're already screwed down and set, so that is stable and accurate. If you got a blank table top and you were putting a slit lamp in it, and it had rails like this, then you would have to measure and those kind of things. But some slit lamps now, they have the plate already, so you're just putting a couple screws in the plate, so that's pretty convenient. And if you wanted the number again of the table, that's where it is. That's the original manufacturer. The different companies distribute it, and this plate that we used here, this is a number on it. It's an AIT11 plate that we use. So if you work for us and you're wanting that plate, that's the number we use.